His hands traced the familiar curve of my back, a map he'd memorized over a decade. It should have felt like coming home, but tonight, like too many nights lately, it felt like visiting someone else's house. I lay there, eyes open in the dark, listening to the rhythm of his breathing, the steady beat of a life we'd built brick by careful brick. Mark was a good man, a really good man. Reliable, kind, the kind of stability people dream of. And lying beneath him, going through the motions that were as ingrained as brushing my teeth, I hated myself for the hollow space inside me. We finished, and he settled beside me, his arm heavy but comforting across my waist, the signature of his sleep. I waited until his breathing deepened into that slow, peaceful cadence. Then I carefully slid out from under his arm, the sheets cool against my skin, and padded silently to the bathroom. The woman in the mirror wasn't a stranger, not exactly, but she felt distant. Her hair was tangled, cheeks flushed from the exertion that had felt less like passion and more like performance art. My eyes, though, they held a question I didn't want to answer, a quiet desperation that mirrored the silence in the rest of the house. I gripped the edge of the sink, the cool porcelain a small anchor. I had the life, the suburban house, the steady marriage, the predictable future stretching out like an open road. So why did it feel less like freedom and more like a cage I'd willingly walked into? And then there was Ethan. His name surfaced in the quiet, unbidden, a sharp, unwelcome thought. Mark's best friend. He was just Ethan. Easygoing, funny, with eyes that seemed to actually see you, not just look in your general direction. He'd been part of the landscape of our marriage from the beginning, always there at barbecues, game nights, casual weeknight dinners. Safe. Completely, utterly safe. Until lately his laugh felt warmer, his presence a little too bright in the corners of my vision. It wasn't just him, though. It was what he stirred in me. A flicker. A memory of a woman who wasn't so muted, who felt things intensely, who hadn't yet learned to fold herself neatly into the shape of wife and responsible adult. Ethan made me feel like maybe, just maybe, that woman was still in there, buried under laundry lists and mortgage payments. The next day was a blur of the usual coffee, emails, the grocery run. Mark kissed my forehead before he left for work, already mentally checked into his day. The quiet of the house pressed in on me, amplifying the restless hum beneath my skin. That evening, just as I was starting dinner, the familiar knock sounded at the back door. Ethan. He never called first, just showed up, easy as breathing. "Hey, Anya," he said, his smile cutting through the afternoon slump like sunlight. His presence always felt like that, a sudden, welcome burst of light. "Hey, Ethan, what's up?" I tried to keep my voice casual, but I could feel the shift in the air the moment he stepped inside. Mark was working late, stuck on some last-minute project downtown. It was just us. I offered him a beer, my hand trembling slightly as I reached for the bottle opener. When our fingers brushed as I handed it to him, it was like touching a live wire. A quick, sharp jolt that went straight up my arm and settled somewhere hot and tight in my chest. We fell into easy conversation in the living room, talking about nothing and everything, the way we always did. But tonight, the usual comfortable silence between sentences felt different. Thicker, charged. I caught him watching me once, his dark eyes lingering, and my breath hitched. Needing a moment, a way to break the sudden intensity, I mumbled something about checking the stove and retreated to the kitchen. But he followed. His footsteps were soft on the hardwood floor, and when I turned around, he was right there. Closer than he'd ever been outside the context of a crowded room. The air seemed to crackle. Every unspoken thought, every buried feeling rushed to the surface. His hand reached out, not quite touching my arm, but hovering there, radiating heat. My heart hammered against my ribs like it wanted out. I should have moved, should have said something practical, something about dinner. But I couldn't. I was frozen, caught in his gaze. Then he closed the small distance between us. His hands found my waist, pulling me gently forward. The world narrowed to just the two of us, the soft sound of our breathing, the sudden urgency of his touch. Our kiss was everything the one earlier hadn't been. Not routine, not obligation. It was raw, desperate, fueled by months, maybe years of buried longing. It was a dam breaking. He lifted me onto the cool kitchen counter, his body pressed against mine, his hands exploring like he was discovering something ancient and forgotten. My legs wrapped around his waist on instinct, and for the first time in a long time, I felt untethered, alive, gloriously reckless. But the sharp grind of tires on the gravel driveway outside shattered the moment. My stomach plummeted. Panic, cold and immediate, flooded my system. "Stop," I whispered, pushing against his chest, sliding awkwardly off the counter. The back door opened and Mark's cheerful voice called out, "Hey, I'm back! Didn't expect to wrap up so early." I fumbled with my clothes, turning quickly to splash water on my face at the sink, hoping the flush on my cheeks looked like cooking heat. My heart was pounding so loud I was sure he could hear it across the room. Ethan was already moving towards the back door, his exit swift, almost silent. I couldn't look at him. I just stared at the sink, gripping the edge until my knuckles were white, listening to Mark's footsteps coming closer. That night, lying beside Mark, his steady breathing a counterpoint to the frantic rhythm of my own heart, the guilt was a physical weight. It pressed down on my chest, stealing my breath. I had betrayed him, the good man, the stable life. I had thrown a match into the carefully constructed world we shared for a few stolen minutes of fire. And yet, beneath the crushing weight of shame, a dangerous ember still glowed. The memory of feeling alive, of being seen. I turned away from Mark, curling into myself in the dark, the enormity of what I had done crashing over me. What now? I had the life I was supposed to want, with a man I loved, in my own way, and I had risked it all. And still, even through the guilt, when I closed my eyes, the ache wasn't just for what I had done. It was for Ethan. For the woman he had momentarily brought back to life. And for something I still couldn't name, but desperately craved.